So today I'm gonna show you how to take this to this. All right, so what you'll need for the swap is a 1314 cluster with the LCD screen. Dean Jones on Facebook sells them, does mileage correction. You'll need 2 keys to program for PATs. The best way I've found to do this is just to buy a 1314 wheel with the up-down buttons and the OK buttons for the message center. You find them on eBay. They sell new old stock ones all the time, or used ones, whatever. That's just the easiest way. Instead of adding the 2 wires in the cluster or in the button harness. You'll need wire cutters, wire strippers, and then crimps if you're using some of these. Something to heat shrink them, obviously. Some de-pinning tools will make your life a lot easier. You'll need a pick for the plugs on the steering wheel, power ratchet or ratchet, 24 with a decent impact or something for the steering wheel bolt, 8mm for the airbag. You'll need access to either IDS or ForceScan, and then wiring diagrams to make it a lot easier, but I can include pictures with pin locations. All right, to start off, we're gonna come in here, pop the hood. We're gonna come in here, disconnect ground side on the battery, take your terminal, put it aside, put something over that. On the side in here, on the steering wheel, you're just gonna take a pick, boom, pop those out. I get in here with your 8mm. Take those out for the airbag. Get that one. We're gonna take our airbag. Ooh. Pop it out. This is really hard with one hand, not gonna lie. Airbag connectors. We're gonna set that aside. All right, we're gonna come in here with our 24. Zip that bolt out for the steering wheel. And then down in here, there's a little, you can see it, there's a little tab for that connector. I'm just gonna pull that, pop that off. And the steering wheel comes out. Set that aside. Next step, this cluster trim bezel. Just give it a little pull from here. Just be gentle. This just comes right out. Then we'll set that aside. Then we're gonna come up here. We got 2 7mm. Just pop it from behind. There we go. And then you'll tip this forward, and there's a connector behind here that I'm just gonna unplug off camera, make my life easier. All right, so the connector is up over here, kind of sits on the back and the top of the cluster. A little awkward to get out, but all right, we're gonna have to take this lower trim piece off. 2 7mm. You're just gonna pop this down. Gosh. There we go. You can tip it out of this in the corner, so you don't have to take that trim piece off. It just comes right out. All right, and then for these shroud pieces, we're gonna come under here. It's a T20. There's 3 of them. More in the back. And these just pop down. I'll do this off camera. It's easier to pop the top one off first, and then this one kind of comes down around your keyhole right there. All right, this is where if you have a base model 10, you will not have this. I'll go through that after I do it this way. So your 10 through 14 cars, so the 11 and through 14, the base model cars have this for info setup reset. This will make your swap a lot easier. you're gonna come in here on your clock spring and unplug that connector. And then you're gonna take that bolt out for those buttons up here. I'll do that real quick. So you're gonna pop this switch out, and then you're gonna unplug this connector down here. It has 3 wires in it, 4 wires, I guess, for your info setup reset. And you're gonna unplug that. And this connector and this connector are gonna be the only ones that you have to modify for the swap on a 11 through 14 car with this message center. This is where things get tricky if you do not have basic wiring experience and deep pinning connectors. This is your clock spring connector, and you'll notice that those 2 pins right there, pins 3 and 11, you don't have anything in them. What you're gonna wanna do is pop this red locking tab off in your connector. So these ones are pretty easy to do. You'll just take a pick in the side right there on the connector and pop that off. So this is where things get tricky if you've not done this before. And you can pause this video to make your life a little easier. But so this is your clock spring connector on a 2014 car that has the buttons on the steering wheel and everything already. So these 2 pins are currently empty. This is pin 3 and pin 11 on the connector that I just pulled apart. And then if you come over here, this is your info setup reset button on your light switch. So you'll notice that pins 4 and 5 are labeled the same as pins 3 and 11. So you're gonna wanna pop these 2 pins out, make sure you remember which is which, and I will go over and do that real quick. I'm gonna try to make this as easy as possible. So this is connector 253 for your message center. Pins 4 and 5 are your 2 middle pins on this connector. There's a little tab in there on each of them that you're gonna have to use a deep pinning tool. And I'm gonna do this one at a time to make it as easy as possible to follow. So I'm gonna pull one out. I'm gonna do pin number 4 out of this connector, which is the one, if you're looking at it this way, it is the 2nd pin down. The wire color does not matter because it is very different between years. It's just kind of a Ford thing. They kind of switch wire colors, but the harnesses are exactly the same. So what you're gonna wanna do is come back maybe 1.5 to 2 inches, and you're gonna wanna cut this pin off. Right here, cut this wire in half. All right, so all I've done here is this is the wire that I cut off. Has the female pin. This is pin number 4 on your message center side. Put some heat shrink on it. I'm gonna need about 2 feet of wire to extend this, and you're gonna go from there into your clock spring connector. So here's pin 4. This is what I have out currently. That's your instrument cluster little pound sign switch, and then you're gonna go into pin 11. Pin 11 right down here on your clock spring connector. So I'll do that real quick. I will add this, heat shrink it, and I'll show you exactly how I routed it. All right, so here, pin 4 is out. This is the wire that I ran, kind of follow the factory harness. And then you'll come up, I'll end up tying this up later. But when you're looking at this connector face, it's gonna be on this side, and you just pop it in right there to pin 11 on this connector. That's your wire that you ran. So basically all this is doing is running from the clock spring directly to the cluster instead of through this message center buttons, because you're not gonna be using those. So once again, pin 4 into pin 11. And then you're gonna take the same thing and do pin 5 into pin 3 on that connector. So I'll do that and then I'll show you. All right, so there's your 2 wires, pins 4 and 5. And I ran them into this connector. I'm gonna put the covers back on them real quick, and then I'll show you exactly how it's ran. All right, cover's on, both the pins are in there. I'm gonna zip tie these up kind of with the factory harness and have it run along how it should. Pop the connector cover back on this, plug that back in, and you'll plug this back into your clock spring, and I will get back to you once this is all put back together. All right, wires routed, kind of with the factory harness. Install the light again, or light switch. So on cars with a message center, that's all you got to do on the wiring side. That is it. Now if you have a base model 2010, this is the only difference. You're still doing the same thing on a base model 2010. You're running wires from here, and then instead of your message center buttons and pulling the pins out and reusing the pins because they're there, might as well use them. 2010s, you're going to be going from those same two wires on the clock spring into your cluster connector, which it's a little more difficult to route it back there just with the factory harness, but I'll show you the pin locations. It's the same thing. You're doing the same exact thing. The only reason is because there's already the wires in this connector, and I'll be honest, these pins are very fragile, so you don't want to mess with them if you don't have to. So cars with a message center, done. I'll pull up wiring diagrams and show you exactly on a base model 2010 where you'd be going. Now this is where the difference is if you have a base model 2010. This is your instrument cluster connector. You're gonna have pins 4 and pin 6. There will be nothing in them. You'll have to pull this apart and do the same thing down here. So you're gonna go from pin 4 on your cluster connector over here down to pin 11, and then from pin 6 to pin 3. It's doing the same thing that I did over here, but from that connector. The best way to do this would be go to the junkyard, cut one of these out of a car so you can reuse the pins, and then same with one of these. Just makes life easier. They don't sell the pigtail service kit for that. So same thing. Same thing. It's a very straightforward process. It's just 2 wires. So now that I'm done with the wiring side, I'm going to put it back together, put the new steering wheel on, and then put the cluster in, and I'll show you from there. All right, now that everything's back together, you're going to want to run over there and connect your battery. All right, now that the battery's hooked up, you're gonna notice that car won't start. Your theft light's flashing. You're gonna wanna make sure that, check your buttons, they work. Look at that. All right, so programming side of things. You're gonna wanna grab either an IDS or 4Scan, and I will show you how to do that real quick. All right, if you have access to IDS, this makes this much easier, but you're gonna come over here, plug in your VCM3, or with 4Scan, you'll have a dongle with a switch on it that you'll have to plug into your laptop. And you're gonna wanna come over and start a session, and then I'll wait. All right, so you got your session started. You come over here and you'll go to body, security, and pads functions. And load for a second. No. And then it'll have me go and wait 10 minutes for security access. Continue, yes. And wait 10 minutes and I'll get back to you. All right, 10 minutes is up. You're gonna wanna go to ignition key code erase. And you will need 2 keys. You go yes. You gotta program 2 keys. Turn the key to 0 off. Just wait 10 seconds. And then you're gonna put your key in, wait 6 seconds, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Take the next key, put it in, 6 seconds, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Come over, hit the check, 2 keys are programmed, and then you're gonna wanna do a parameter reset. You need to do this to start it. And it'll say security access has been lost, and you're gonna have to wait another 10 minutes. So, exit from the menu, go back into, hold on, key off, and then you're gonna wanna go back to body, security, paths functions, and then it'll have you wait another 10 minutes, and I will get back to you. All right, 10 minutes later. Security access granted, and we're gonna do a parameter reset. Yes, operation has been successful, and you should be able to turn the key off, turn the key on, and so there you go. All right, so if you have a 2010, there isn't really a way around this, but oil change required will pop up every time because you can't load the PCM as-built data from a 5.0 car, obviously, because the car won't run. So this is kind of all you can do with a 2010. You can add the 2013-14 ABS module to get these working. You'll just have to replace the ABS module and then go into module programming, ABS, and then load a VIN number with the option for the ABS module. So that's it for 2010 cars. Now, if you have a 2011 through 2014, this is what's kind of nice about them. You reprogram the PCM, IPC, and the ABS module from a 13-14 car VIN, and then everything will work. The only crappy part about the 2010s is the cruise control is not going to work because the IPC data is different from the 2010 cars. So it's pretty straightforward. It's just a cool thing to have in the car. Not a lot of people understand how to do it, and I haven't really found a good informational video. If you have any questions about it, put it down in the comments. But